Recording in progress.
Are you meeting?
No, I'm speaking.
Your
You're muted.
computer.
What?
Do you have volume on your computer?
Yeah. Hey, can you hear us, Anita?
I can.
Okay.
Guys, I've got a bad network link in a hotel, so I turned off my video.
Oh, okay. So are we all set to get started?
If you guys are ready, you've got
Yeah.
both of them.
Okay, yeah. So
And again, thank you for recording it, because we definitely want to have a copy of that. We'll put it up on YouTube and set it as an example.
sure. All right, yeah, well, I'll just introduce myself. My name's David. I'm the lead for this year. We're the Atomic Aggies. We have several of our members with us, as well as several of our leads. We'll just go around the room, quickly introduce ourselves, and then we'll get started.
Hello, my name is Tori. I am the project manager.
My name is Ariana. I'm the manufacturing lead.
My name is Austin Salas. I'm part of the manufacturing team.
Make sure you speak up.
As well as the recovery payload.
My name is Samuel Diaz. I'm part of the manufacturing team as well as recovery and payload.
My name is Juan Diaz, same as I'm part of the manufacturing, payload, and recovery team.
My name is Julia Bowden. I'm one of the recovery leads.
I'm Diego Montoya. I'm the avionics lead.
Adrian Amato. I am the payload lead.
Addison Miller, and I help with avionics.
All right, so here's our rocket. Get you the full picture here.
Do you guys know who we are? Obviously, you know who Anita is.
Yes.
In case anybody's curious, I'm Andy Berger. I'm the vice president for ESRA. I visited with your team back when Anita was, I guess that was 2018, maybe. So, you know, pretty familiar with the school and your program and all that, and the Chili Cup and those type of things as well. So looks like this year you scared away the Lobos, so it should be a little bit easier to win it again.
Hopefully. All right, so we've put a little PowerPoint together which covers all the main points of our rocket. So we'll just run through this and then feel free to ask any questions along the way. Go ahead. So our rocket is right under 12 feet tall and 82 pounds. Our center of gravity, 82.2 inches from the top and 109 inches again from the tip of the nose. Stability margin of 3.34, and our motor this year is a Cicerone N2200 5-grain. We had a test launch just a few weeks ago over in El Paso at the Horizon City launch site. We had an apogee of 12,727 and a max velocity of 721 feet per second. Overall, it was a fairly successful test flight. Our main chute did not deploy. We discovered the cause of that, and I'll let our recovery lead speak to that. The air brakes were also malfunctioned. However, they are non-flight critical, which just meant our apogee was higher than expected, as well as the payload. The payload is non-flight critical as well. And since the rocket hit the ground a little too hard, the payload broke on impact, and we weren't able to get any data from that. But overall, the airframe survived. There was no damage whatsoever to the airframe. The avionics were recovered, and as well as the altimeters. So we got some good data overall from the test flight. So I'll let Julia speak about the recovery issues.
Yes, so our main parachute did not deploy. This was unfortunately due to some hacking errors. We stuck the parachute a little bit too tightly into the parachute bag. And when doing a full scale assembly, the section between our parachute and avionics and all of our other sections was a little tight. So we've added a little bit more space and kind of reassembled the way we're packing, so everything fits much more smoothly now and should deploy successfully this time.
Speak about the ground testing.
Yes, we are ground testing as well. We did, like I said, we did some parachute packing techniques, so completely relearned how to do that from scratch, as well as testing the parachute bag. We did a shake test, came out smoothly with one shake, and then did some running tests to make sure it pulled out of the bag and opened successfully.
Quick question. When the main did not, I guess, deploy, did the bag stay inside the body tube, or did the bag come out of the body tube and it just wouldn't come out of the bag?
The bag came out, but the parachute did not separate itself from the bag.
Okay, so if the bag is the issue, how do you think adding additional space in the tube is going to resolve that?
It was just kind of how we packed it. We did do some tests with and without the bag and are currently deciding which one is better. We're leaning towards without a bag and wrapped in a fire blanket though.
Okay, 9 out of 10, and this is me giving you tips when I'm not supposed to be giving you tips. But hey, it's the Atomic Aggies, right? So anyways, even though we're being recorded, anybody that's watching this on YouTube, just close your ears for a few seconds. Typically in a deployment bag situation, you have a drogue chute, and that drogue chute should be pulling that main parachute out. And if it's not forcibly pulling that chute out of the bag, you can't expect any type of gravity or even the weight of the nose cone, you know, because once everything's free falling, you really don't, you have a little bit of inertia, but you really don't have any force. Whereas if you have a deployment where you have a drogue chute and that drogue chute has high drag, that's going to pull that main chute out every time. So if that is the case, you guys might want to take a look at how the main's being pulled out of the bag.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a comment as well. I know we've kind of done this many times, but the top of the bag, you know how it has a hook? Did you guys hook that in to the swivel, like the actual attachment point? Just a question.
I don't think
Or was it like, because there's a hook on the top and it's actually supposed to be anchored, so it does, like your bag, it's all packed. So like no matter, like Andy was saying, no matter how tight it's packed, your bag does have a hook on the top. That hook should be mounted and it pulls from there. So like your bag, it should clear the bag.
Okay, I don't, yeah, we did not do that. Yeah, that would be a good solution.
Simpler.
Yeah,
Because we've never used a drogue, Andy, and I know the chute that they're using. I think I actually launched off of it from a level 3. So we've never done the pilot chute because of the parachute. It does have a spill pool in it. So just some feedback or tips.
yeah, thank you. Well,
Yeah, again, something's got to pull it out. So I mean, you
Yeah.
can't just expect the inertia to pull it out, because if it doesn't and it's in there really tight, then once that inertia is gone, you don't have anything pulling the main out.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. We will certainly remedy that. Okay, moving on from that. I don't know if I mentioned our nose cone is deployable, similar to last year's design. The nose cone has its own parachute and ejection system, and I can show you the camera here. So you have the recovery system, Julia. So that's our recovery system, and it sits like such inside of the nose. There's a seal here along the edge, and there's CO2. We have 2 CO2 canisters that go, one there and one right there, as well as altimeters. And this sits inside of the nose like such. And when we program the altimeters, we can choose at what altitude to deploy those. And the nose cone will jettison away from the main body. And we tested that, and with great success. We did a very similar design last year at competition, which worked well. And as well as this year at our test launch, that system worked very well. And this allows the payload, which is a rover, to roll out of the tube once on the ground. Moving on from that, air brakes. Let me slide you down here.
So
So
real quick, guys, for the recovery of the nose cone, I saw some of the avionics like an RRC3. Do you have GPS tracking on that as well?
we do, we have a featherweight GPS.
Okay, so that's one GPS tracker. Does it come down under single deployment or dual deployment?
The main rocket, single deployment.
The nose cone.
Oh, the nose cone single, yeah.
Okay, so you got basically a single parachute. That's, what's the descent rate on that?
It is 21.25 feet per second.
Okay, so relatively slow. So you're at 10,000 feet, you got a parachute that's coming down relatively slow, and you got a main rocket that's coming down slow. So for future reference, ESRA is not really happy with multiple things floating down from sky. We love to see them all connected together because that's only one thing that would potentially, I don't know, kill somebody. Now we have two things. So, and that's fine too.
So those don't actually deploy at apogee. We have programmed the nose cone to deploy at 300 feet above the ground.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yep.
Very good. I like that much better.
And our main is programmed at
Do-
15, yeah, and our main is supposed to deploy at 1,500 feet.
Good. Okay, I like that a lot better.
Okay, so moving on to our air brake system. I'll go ahead and slide this camera down and we move over there. So that's as far as we get.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're gonna lose.
I'll bring it up. Can you unplug the power?
Let's go to the other side.
Yeah, so just
Do the camera.
It's like riding a roller coaster. Woo!
Can you see? Okay, so our air brake system is right here. It's currently out of the coupler, but if you guys hold that in, I'm going to take it out. So the air brake system sits right here. There are several slats drilled into the tube, and that is where the flaps will actually deploy out. So go ahead and pull the tube out, pull it out for you here. So this is just a standard fiberglass coupler, and inside the air brakes will fit in here. It's a self-contained system. Battery is in here. The servo, which deploys the flaps, as well as an SD card writer and pressure sensor. This system it's essentially just plug and play. We mount it inside the payload tube. We have 4 screws, which connected the air brake system to the payload section, and then prop section, sorry. And then once that's in, we can close it up, and then we will slide the rest of the body tube on top of it.
Okay, so sorry,
yes.
real quick question. For that coupler piece that is there, that's a fiberglass piece with carbon fiber over the top of it?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only concerns that I have is a coupler is a stress point. And,
Yes.
and the fact that it's loose means, you don't have a secure bond there.
Yes,
Now,
so
with that stress point, you basically cut a slit into it for all but that one little section right there. I mean, basically what you're putting all the stress on those little points that are not cut.
oh, I see, yes.
So if you do have some what I'll call lateral side to side pressures like high winds or some other kind of problems, you basically, it's like taking a 2x4 that's really, really strong and then cutting it through 9/10 of the way, and all of a sudden you can break a 2x4. So that's the things that you got to be very, very careful when you're designing, that you don't basically shoot yourself in the foot. So I see these quite a bit, and I bring it up quite a bit, and you can resolve it just by making sure that the braking mechanism is fully anchored above and below, and that'll resolve the lateral motions.
Okay, and it is, yes. So we have these aluminum rings here, which sit about right there. They're going to go inside the coupler, and these will go inside the prop tube, and then those are anchored in with some 1032 screws to provide some extra strength there.
Right, but
Yeah,
I guess I
yeah,
don't understand.
Yeah.
how the top
Yeah,
side
you're-
versus the bottom side.
Yeah, so your issue still stands, and we'll have to run some analysis to make sure that these slits are strong enough. Yeah.
Okay, and again, the other option is if you use those aluminum pieces above and below it, that's great, as long as they're connected together somehow.
Okay. Yep.
Like if you had those rods, I saw those rods going through it. If those rods were connected to something like those aluminum pieces, whatever, something that fully connected the lower section with the upper section.
Yeah. That's yeah. Yeah. That doesn't do it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. We'll have to investigate that, and we'll resolve that as well. Yeah. That is something I had not considered. Okay. Okay. That's good. Thank you for that. And then lastly, we have our payload, and I'll leave you.
David,
Yes.
going back to that section, I know, previous designs of this, there was a wobble in that section.
Yeah.
Were you guys able to, in this test flight, see that, or was it mitigated?
There was,
you
yeah,
know?
no wobble for this test flight.
Okay.
Yeah, no wobble. And then up next, we have our payload. And I'll hand you off. Do you have the payload?
Yeah, there's nothing.
No, keeps that. Nothing. Okay, we're currently working on our payload. We don't have that in our shop right now. It's currently being machined. But I think we have some pictures of it on the next slides.
No, it goes first. Propulsion first.
Okay. I can send you some additional information about our payload, but that is not going to eject from the rocket in flight or on descent. The rover will roll out of the payload tube once the rocket has landed on the ground. And the goal of the payload is a rover which will drop chili seeds in the New Mexico desert.
Okay, those are native chili seeds, correct?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, and
Yep.
we're perfectly okay with that. And again, when the Spaceport folks start hearing, oh my God, they're going to drop seeds. So as long as it's like these are native New Mexico seeds
They are.
that
Mhm.
probably already out here by the thousands.
They are. Yeah, we made sure of that.
Excellent.
Okay, up next, we have our propulsion. We'll just talk a little bit about our motor. This past test flight was an Cicerone M2200. We'll be using the same motor again for competition.
Do you already have the motor in hand?
We do, yes.
Excellent. That's a win.
So pretty standard stuff here. We have our motor casing. We use the same motor as last year as well, and we're familiar with its performance and how to assemble it. Yep. So just again, here are our numbers, straight from the Cicerone website. Our thrust to weight ratio will be 6.1 to 1 with a launch rail departure velocity of 81.6 feet per second. So there was some concern in the report that our exit velocity off the rail was a little too slow. But I think we found that at test launch, we had no issues and it was quite stable. So I think we should be fine again for competition.
Okay. What was the weather like during your test launch?
It was calm. It was winds were less than 5 miles an hour. It was about 80 degrees or so. Almost perfect weather.
That's where we run into a slight differentiation on speed off the rail. If you have, let's see, we cut off at 20 miles an hour, but if you're going at 15 to 18 miles an hour, your environment factors change significantly with rail velocity departure. Nonetheless, again, you're at 80, you need to be at 100. I'm not worried about that.
Okay. Okay, great. Our acceleration, we're going to pull right under 7 Gs during flight, and all of our components are rated to handle that acceleration, that force. Recovery, I think we spoke a bit about that, but just to reiterate some things, the drogue deployment will be right at apogee. The descent rate with the drogue parachute will be 126 feet per second, and that will deploy via a CO2 system using two 45-gram cartridges. The main is again a CO2 system deploying at 1,500 feet with a descent rate of 42 feet per second. using again 45-gram cartridges. And lastly, the nose cone will deploy at 300 feet above the ground using CO2 cartridges, 25-gram capacity.
All right, can you guys show me the, I guess, the eBay that's going to kick out your separated apogee and then the whole process there, linkages, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'll hand this off to Julia here.
So this is our eBay for our main and drogue. We'll have our altimeters, batteries, and switches. It'll be the same on the opposite ends, where we'll have our CO2 ejection charges in these red wells here on both sides. One set's redundant, one set is primary.
Okay.
So two for both drogue and main.
Are they completely separately wired to separate, like primary 1 versus primary 2, or should we back up 2? Are those?
My apologies. We have one set for main, one altimeter for main, and one altimeter for drogue.
Okay. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Why would you do that versus having both of them operate both functions?
What do you mean?
So if you got main and drogue, you know, each flight computer has options for both of those. And so what we
do, it's one for primary and one for redundant.
okay. All right, very good. And so that's all I needed. That's it. Thanks. Let's take a look at linkages. And so you're going to be basically segmenting on one side for drogue and then another side for main. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, very good. I like that.
Sorry, go ahead.
The CO2 charges are going to be blasting. I guess if we put all that together,
Put together?
yeah. When it no, I guess when the eBay's try, I just want to be curious. I'm curious about when the CO2 cartridges go off. Do they push the parachutes and harnesses back into the tube farther before they get pulled out eventually, or do they like, I don't know the easiest way to describe this.
Yeah. So let me kind of walk you through it here. So go ahead and put the so the eBay section that Julia just showed you with the CO2 is in this coupler right here.
Right. Yep.
Our main parachute will be right here in this section.
Okay.
Which will be right here. So there's going to be a bulkhead right here, which seals off this component, this area. It's going to do the rest of the section. Doesn't have to be perfect. So the parachute will fit right here roughly. And then this is the end of the recovery coupler. So yes, it will pressurize this area splitting right here. So the parachute will be pushed further into the tube this way. And then this will fall out that way.
So this has always been one of my pet peeves about rocket design. If you were able to, it's not a good idea when you want the parachute to come out to use an ejection charge to push the parachute farther in and then hope that it's bouncing around will eventually pull it back out.
Yeah.
I hope you understand generally what I'm saying. What the preference is typically during a normal dual deployment is that ejection charge will kick the parachute and generate a separation on the far side. So if there's a nose cone ahead of it, it'll kick the nose cone off because that area is pressurized, and that vacuum function will drag that parachute out of it instead of pushing the parachute farther into the tube and then hoping that inertia or some other function will push it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Nothing you can do now, guys. So don't be sitting back. Oh my God, we got to cut here and do. So nothing we can do here. You've already tested it. This is more of just an FYI for future designs. Yeah,
that's a very good point. Yeah, that is a very good point. Yeah, it's too late to modify it now. We'll certainly take Anita's advice and hook the bag in to make sure it doesn't get tangled up, and we'll do some more ground testing. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Air brakes, yeah, I discussed that. A little bit about the specifications here. The flaps themselves are 1/4-inch aluminum sheets. It's a servo controlled by an ESP32 with a activation system of a barometer sensor and just a simple lithium-ion battery. And then those points you brought up, we'll run some analysis to make sure that you know, and we'll figure out some way to reinforce the coupler as well. Some kind of aluminum rod system, perhaps connecting the two ends. We did a similar system to that last year with the aluminum rods running the full length of the air brake system. So we may resort back to that, which worked out pretty well. And yeah, we'll more than likely do that.
All right, couple questions on the air brakes. And again, Nita, don't let me steal your thunder here. So if you got stuff to throw in there, throw it in.
Okay.
About things on air brakes, and these are the same arguments that I mentioned to team year over year over year. Key number one, when the air brakes deploy, are they basically linked together so that all three of them deploy off of one function, one mechanism?
Yes, yeah, there's one servo which connects. Let me pull it up. I think I have it here. Give me 1 second here.
I want to make sure that there is no chance in the universe that one side brake would partially open and the others won't. So it either fully deploys or it doesn't deploy at all.
Yeah, so these were last year's design, but we're going off a very similar principle. And this design is what had the aluminum rod system. So we may resort back to this design, but these are a little chunkier, but there are 4 flaps, these flaps here, which will extend out, and they're all connected via this single horn here, which connects to a single servo. So it's impossible for one to deploy without the others. If one comes out, they all have to come out.
Excellent.
And yeah.
That's really about it. I'm not over concerned about anything regarding air brakes other than the potential for one set. Now, I'm just curious, does it adjust itself during flight or does it activate at a certain point?
It opens up at a predetermined altitude, whatever we set that on the ground, and they'll open at that altitude. For instance, this past test flight was about 6,500 feet, or at least they were supposed to, and once they open, they just stay open for the duration of the flight, all the way down to descent.
I like it. Nice and simple. Sure.
Yep. Avionics, I'll hand you off to our avionics lead, Diego. He can talk a bit about the system here.
All right, so our avionics is comprised of 2 systems. So you have the avionics that go on the rocket itself, which is this right here. And it kind of goes into this little capsule. And then the ground station, which is
Speak just a little louder.
right here. So here's our ground station, open it up. Have a antenna on the side, and basically you'll have a computer on the side that displays a GUI to where you get your GPS, you get your acceleration and position, and a bunch of the other telemetry that comes from the avionics itself. And, so this system, it uses 2 ESPs, one for the black box and one for the GUI. We use ultimate breakout GPS. We're using Zigbee for our antennas. And again, a bunch of electronics for telemetry and temperature and kind of like the gyroscopes.
Okay. Battery wise, what's your life expectancy for a battery?
Our battery, we have a pretty hefty battery on here. It generally, yeah, kind of strapped in, but this is it right here. I don't know if you can see that.
Put it in this one.
Yeah, it can run about 11 hours straight.
Yes, so it's plenty of time. We could basically just put it in the rocket, turn it on, plug it in, and we'll be good to go.
Excellent. So, let's see. So is that your primary GPS system for tracking as well?
Our primary system for competition will be the Big Red B. So that's where we'll be feeding all our information to you guys. But
Okay.
everything else, we kind of use this ultimate GPS.
And you've tested
What
that
section of
during
the rocket does that?
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
What section of that rocket, or what section of that rocket does the bay sit in?
Yeah.
I guess, where is it mounted?
Sure. So yeah, it's gonna go right above the main chute and below the payload. So this is our payload. Right here, this is the nose cone payload. Avionics will sit right here. There's this aluminum ring, which we will mount some 1032 screws again, securing the avionics section to the airframe.
How is that battery mounted? That looks like
It has some Velcro tape underneath wrapped with electrical tape, and then we finish it off with zip ties when we launch.
there you go, zip ties.
Yep,
Ties are your friends.
they are. And that system has been very reliable in the past, and we get good data all the way up until about 50 feet on descent, so we can pinpoint to a pretty good radius.
Is there any concerns of battery drain testing with the temperatures that we can see at cup, like 110 degrees?
Yeah, no, we've done the analysis, and it has at least 11 hours just normal room temperature conditions. And then for test launch, and as well as for competition last year, we had the system running for 4 or 5 hours straight with no issue. And yeah, and it's on a switch as well, so we can turn it on and turn it off without actually having to take it out of the system. So we can just turn it on the pad just to ensure we have enough battery life. All right. Yeah. Manufacturing, I'll hand you off to Ariana.
So our rocket is comprised of being fully manufactured by our team. So everything besides the that was awkward. Everything besides the actual motor is made by us. We use carbon fiber or fiberglass, depending on what section we're creating. The fiberglass houses all the electronic components. We have an airframe diameter of 6 inches. Again, we use the fiberglass and carbon fiber. We have 3 slotted fins. They're 120 degrees apart. The fins are made with 16 layers of fiber with epoxy resin, vacuumed and water jetted. After those fins have been fined, we connect them to the motor tube, insert them into the prop section, and we do external fillets on the outside. And we also do apply tip to tip first. Oh my God, I'm muted. Oh, no.
No, you're good. You're good.
Tip to tip, sorry. Tip to tip for the stability and extra integrity factors. We do have the 2 couplers, as you guys have seen. One does house the air brake system, while the other houses the recovery system and the eBay. So they act as joint connectors. As you mentioned before, the carbon fiber bands, they're 2 inches for the air brakes and a 1 inch for the eBay.
Very nice. Couple of questions. The rocket is, we'll call it a little bit chunky. That's a term that I use with my big fat dog. So 82 pounds is a beast. That's a big old chunky rocket. And I'll bet you a majority of that weight probably is in a lot of the frame, the airframe itself, because it looks to me like you've got a really, really solid rocket. It may be almost over solid. So when doing your analysis, I'm totally okay with being over solid. There is nothing wrong with that at all. When the team starts moving up to the next stage, and I'm fully expecting you guys to start competing at high altitude and maybe someday hybrids and liquids and all that kind of stuff. But you know, I would be surprised if you guys didn't attempt 30K next year. And so to do that, you really got to get lean and mean with the performance of your manufacturing. And that means the tubing needs to be strong. So maybe pure carbon fiber type scenario with much thinner, and so instead of doing 16 layers, maybe you can get by with 8, something similar to that nature where you actually make a piece of tubing or you buy a commercial one and do some overlay with it, but you really limit yourself to what will give you, I guess, break even type of, one factor of safety and then add 50% to that, or some type of scenario where you're really thinning it out and making sure that the rocket weight stays down to an acceptable rate, because trying to get 82 pounds to 30,000 feet is going to put you probably right at the top of the O class. So, you got to start looking at these type of performance functions for what you're doing here or what you're doing this year. No problems. Looks great.
Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Can we go to the aft end? I want to see that retaining ring squad.
Yeah, I can take
Well,
my.
Yeah, okay.
So. That's what it was good. So I don't know if I can. So. Oh.
Here, let me get mine.
1 second.
Norris, this is the first year we've done this, so
Okay.
everybody's new at it. So don't worry about that. We're definitely okay with all of that.
Sorry about, yeah, all right, here we go. What was that, Anita?
I really just wanted to see, it on there, honestly, epoxied on, not just, friction fitted on,
Oh, yeah, no, that's
just making
fine.
sure it's fully there,
Mhm.
some questions.
Yeah.
Checking the box. I mean, have to ask.
Of course,
Good.
yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, motor case falling from the sky is not fun. That is the closest.
Not a pleasant
Uh,
experience.
Yeah, the closest, scariest experience we had was a motor case falling out and landing within, I think, about 15 or 20 feet of somebody.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's not good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, what else do we have? Let's see. Next slide. Yeah, so I think that's it. And then a little off topic, but you mentioned that we are hoping to advance in the categories in the competition. We are developing a liquid engine as we speak, and we will be doing a static fire test next week, the first in New Mexico State University history. So hopefully that goes well.
Yeah, you hope to do that. I'm telling you, 10,000 different problems are going to pop up when you start. I mean, the simple things. Have you done? And this is completely off topic, but totally okay. Again, guys, the fact that you test launched is important. The main reason we're doing these video reviews is because we continue to have teams showing up that are epoxying their fins in during the competition. So we want to see a rocket that's built, and if you've just test flown it, which you guys have, that's fabulous. But again, everything that we've seen here, I think looks like it's in very good shape. You guys going to do some paint and body work and make it look all pretty and stuff?
Yep, that's next on.
Yeah, keep in mind that adds weight, and you need to put that into your design factors. We had a couple of teams that went overboard on their painting and found out later on that it added almost 4 pounds to their rocket. And you guys understand also about colors and how they affect heat and all that stuff. But throw on all your sponsors, throw in lots of logos, make it look awesome. I think you guys understand about putting the team number where it needs to go. That's very, very critical, because when we get you up on the live stream, we want to make sure everybody knows whose rocket that is. We don't want any questions asked. So that's in great shape. I guess quick question, Anita, do you have any other questions on their I guess cup rocket for this year?
I have a question on exactly, like, you guys showed us like the intent and the payload idea. What is it actually gonna be housed into? I know it's like butting up in the payload, but reference, like, what is it, coming out of? I know there's a tube. Are we doing a Like,
Yeah. So,
fiberglass or?
yeah, it's a CubeSat factor. It's a 2U CubeSat machined out of aluminum, 1/8" aluminum sheet. And we're going to skeletonize it to save some weight. And the rover will essentially have tires that sit from floor to ceiling to ensure that it doesn't bounce around. And it'll be the exact length and width of the CubeSat, so it doesn't shake around, it doesn't bounce around. And it will sit on a almost wheels. Oh, shit. It will sit on wheels that allow it to orientate itself on the ground so that the bottom of the rover will remain on the bottom and roll out. Oh, here it is. So this is our wheel, a mock-up of it here. And then this is the rover body. We disassembled it the other day, but this will sit like this. And then of course the CubeSat is just a little bit bigger than it. It'll sit right about there. Oh, here's our board. And then we have a custom printed PCB board with all the pinouts for the electronics.
Very nice. Okay. And then my next question, I guess, what rail buttons, how are we looking? How are they actually like, how are they mounting to them? I mean, are they screwed in? Are we doing a different method, you know?
They're going to be
A
screwed
solid
in.
attachment point.
Mhm.
Okay.
Screwed-
They're screwed in behind it. Is there like a block of, epoxy piece of wood? Are we doing helicoils, like, or is it just drilled into the airframe?
helicoils.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And it's 15 rail guides, right?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, just 2 buttons, right?
Correct.
And where is the location of the bottom button?
The bottom one is about, I can show you, we need right now we have different rail buttons, but what we use for test launch, that's the bottom rail button there. It's maybe
Okay.
about 5 inches from the bottom of the rocket. And then the second rail button is right there.
Gotcha. Sounds
Hmm.
good. That looks good to me.
Thank you. Yeah. And I know those aren't
Is
the
that bottom one in a centering ring or helicoiled in?
helicoiled in.
Okay,
Both of- yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, 82 pounds. We just had Rice University do a test launch of their 2-stage rocket, which is a little bit smaller, weighed about as much as yours. And something happened and the bottom button sheared off.
Hmm.
And so as the rocket's taking off, I'm moving my hand like you guys can see my hand, but basically the rear end of the rocket tried to advance faster than the top end of the rocket because it didn't have a bottom rail button, and it got quite exciting.
Wow.
So there's going to be a lot of attention and focus on rail buttons this year and ensuring that they are fully anchored. We will have a piece of 1515 rail at range safety inspection. We're going to put your rocket with hopefully fully loaded with all the stuff on Monday, and then we're going to grab that rail. We're going to slide your rocket on it, and we're going to lift your rocket up just on those rail buttons. So I know that's not the same as being vertical. When you're in a vertical motion, the weight is not the same. But if your rocket can hold up, from a horizontal position from those buttons, then it'll absolutely hold up when you go vertical.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anything else, Anita?
my favorite test, I know you guys know it by heart, fins. I mean, gotta make sure they're on there, Ariana. Go and, put some torque on there for me. Like, I actually want to see it. I can't physically do it till cut, but I know they're going to be on there, but I'm going to do this with all of my teams. Kind of like just grab them and kind of flex them like we did with the kits.
Mhm.
I want to see it. Sorry, Andy, this is my favorite test.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. I mean, I didn't have any concerns, but just want to establish the path with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, any other questions, concerns, Andy?
No, but I did want to talk to you briefly about your liquid side.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I guess the question is that a separate team from this group, or is it the same club